From our State House studio in Montgomery, I'm Todd Stacy. Welcome to Capitol Journal. The Alabama Legislature's special session on American Rescue Plan Act funding is one step closer to complete, as lawmakers today met for the third of a required 5 days needed to pass legislation. We'll start in the House, where members passed a bill appropriating more than $1 billion in ARPA funding. There were no amendments to the original bill, which directs these federal COVID relief dollars toward compensating hospitals and nursing homes, investing in water and sewer infrastructure, and expanding access to high-speed broadband internet. There was some debate on the House floor, mainly from those seeking clarification on the details.
In the past, sometimes what we allocated has not been approved higher up than us. All right? So it comes back to us, right? What you're saying now is the legislative council or somebody gonna get it, and then we go over it again. All right? I want to know exactly what I personally would like to know. I'll send a letter out, know exactly what comes back and how much came back, what approved. We had the same problem with the prison now. You know that, don't you? So I'm asking questions that is there a body gonna say we out of session? Say I'm in Alaska, so I might be in Florida, laying on the beach drinking a martini. All right, it comes back, but you said if there was a committee formulated by the legislature that would then turn around and reapprove the money.
So,
that's what you said now. You said that, right? You said a committee,
yes, sir.
Right?
Absolutely. And same thing that I said before. In the 2022 legislation, as part of the ARPA funds, when that bill was passed, that created that joint legislative committee, oversight committee for the ARPA funds. And it very distinctly, as I read a while ago, specifies their authority and what they are to do. In fact, there is wording in there that I'm on that committee as well, and I think we have met 3 times. I believe that's accurate.
Okay, stop right there. I don't know who on the joint legislative committee, but I'm not on it. So therefore, I'm going to make a special request to the speakers or everything else who's on that committee and when they meet and what they're looking at.
The bill passed by a vote of 102 to 3 and now goes to the Senate. Upstairs in the Senate, a bill to repay $59 million to the Alabama Trust Fund was on the floor. About 10 years ago, during difficult financial times, the legislature and state voters chose to borrow $400 million from the Alabama Trust Fund to help fill holes in the budget and avoid catastrophic cuts. But they also promised to pay the money back when revenues returned, which is what they've done year by year. This marks the final payment back to the Alabama Trust Fund. Lawmakers said that it showed the state will always pay its debts. Senator Clyde Chambliss of Prattville noted that recent budget reforms have been put in place to prevent the need for such borrowing in the future.
This is not a historic day yet, but this is part of the historic process that's going to go to finally repay the debt that we owe. We as citizens of the state of Alabama, and fortunately we owe it to ourselves, thanks to the forethought of many, many people that came before us and put in the trust funds so many years ago, and we're blessed as a state to have that, and we should always protect that. This is a step in our acknowledgement that it is a good thing and we want to protect it. So when this bill is passed and when it's signed into law, it will be the culmination of a lot of legislators and executive branch officials that have put time, energy, and effort into the financial changes that allow us to have $60 million. It wasn't that long ago that we didn't have $60 million. We were $250 million in the hole, trying to find money, trying to find ways that we can balance the budget. And through your leadership, other leaders, Senator Orr, who was in the general fund at a time, Senator Tripp Pittman, Representative Klaus, and I know I'm forgetting somebody, our fine folks at LSA, we're in this position.
Senator Greg Albritton, who chairs the General Fund Budget Committee, said the unanimous vote was notable in that it showed that all senators agreed with paying back the debt.
I think it's a big deal. I think we have met our obligations to the citizens of Alabama. We've paid them back. That'll give us an opportunity to crow for a long time that we did what we promised.
The Senate decided not to take up a bill from Senator Garland Gudger amending the patient visitation rights law to essentially force hospitals and nursing homes to allow visitors in a pandemic. The bill was not included in Governor Ivey's call for a special session, so it would have taken a 2/3 majority vote to bring it up out of order. During the Senate debate today, Senator Roger Smitherman of Birmingham reiterated his arguments for keeping state-funded judgeships in Jefferson County. The Judicial Reallocation Commission says that Jefferson has more judgeships than it needs compared to other high-growth areas, including Madison County.
We got plenty of money. It's about time for us to come up with 10, 12, I think it was about 12, give or take $1.2 million. It was about $12 million to fund all our needs in this state for judges. It makes no sense to have all these millions of dollars sitting over there worrying about, well, we're going to get somebody money back over here and some money back over here when we got a real live need in the whole state of Alabama. And that is, they're saying that we don't have enough judge here, we need a judge over here. That's what this money is designed to do, is to take care of those needs, except in this situation, you, not you, you being you mean us.
You're somebody.
We are going to make 4 times that money back off the court systems if we have the judges to handle those cases versus they sitting up there getting 3 and 4 and 5 years old. And I'm just telling you, I'm living that situation now. This is some people since 2018 been trying to get a divorce.
In case you missed it last night, I spoke to Colonel Ryan Richardson and Chief Master Sergeant Lee Hoover of Maxwell Gunter Air Force Base. We spoke about Operation Welcome Home, a special series of events marking the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War and the return home of soldiers, many of whom were prisoners of war. The initiative culminates tomorrow.
And then really for the public on Wednesday at 0800 at Kelly Street Gate, the Air Force Base will be open to anyone in the community and any Vietnam or otherwise a veteran writ large to come and be recognized on the installation. So we can talk a little bit more about the specific times, but this is an opportunity for us to open up the installation to the community within which we serve. We're blessed to raise our families and really at this point say thank you.
And again, for those wanting to attend Wednesday's special ceremony, the Kelly Street Gate of Maxwell Air Force Base will be open beginning at 8 a.m. The public is encouraged to attend. We'll be right back with tonight's guests.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online at video.aptv.org. Capital Journal episodes are also available on APTV's free mobile app. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page. And you can listen to past episodes of Capital Journal when you're driving or on the go with Capital Journal podcasts. Keep up with what's happening with Capital Journal.
Joining me next is State Representative Jim Hill, Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. Mr. Chairman, thanks for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Good to see you.
Well, I wanted to have you on because there has been a lot of talk recently, a lot of news articles and everything about this prisoner release situation. Mm-hmm. You had maybe about 500 released, as the law stated, prior to their end of sentence. And because it was such a big number all at once, it really gained a lot of headlines, got a lot of politicians talking, as headlines tend to do. But you were the sponsor of that 2021 reform bill that led to this. And I wanted to give you a chance to explain what was really behind the law and what it actually does.
Sure. In 2015, we actually passed a bill that said prior to an individual ending their sentence, and in the law we call that EOS. EOS their sentence, ends their sentence. It's over. At that point in time, in 2015, we passed a law that said they would be released before they actually ended their sentence. Now, think about this. When we sentence an individual to prison, there are really only two ways that person's going to come out. Everyone is eligible for parole. That parole is eligible within, well, except unless you got life without.
Right.
That life without is a different animal. But you're eligible for parole in 1/3 of your sentence or a maximum of 10 years. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but it does mean that there's an eligibility for parole at those periods of time, and if it's put off, then that eligibility for parole, just comes back up, or you come back up for parole. So let's say you never get paroled. For whatever reason, you are not paroled. Then at some point in time, because we sentence determinatively, in other words, you don't get a sentence of up to or between a range of. You are sentenced for a certain number of years, whether it be 5, 10, 20, 30, it doesn't matter. You're sentenced for a period of time. When that sentence ends, when it's over, when you serve the entirety of your sentence, you are released.
You walk out the jail.
You walk out the jail with no supervision, no monitoring, no check-in time, no drug monitoring, testing, anything that would keep you in a supervisory type of setting for a period of time. So if you EOS your sentence in prison, you end your sentence in prison, when you walk out that door, you have absolutely no strings on you whatsoever. All right, I do not think that's good public safety. And I don't think, well, obviously the majority of the House and the Senate didn't think that was good public safety as far back as 2015. So in 2021, what we did was just simply made it retroactive. Irrespective of when you started your sentence, if you are going, we're not going to allow you to end your sentence sitting in prison, so that when you walk out, you have no supervision whatsoever.
Plus the electronic monitoring.
The other thing that the 2021 bill really did in a large way was require that the Bureau of Pardons and Paroles place an electronic monitor on those individuals when they are released from prison. Now that would be true whether they are paroled or whether they are released just prior to their end of sentence. So the electronic monitoring is a requirement in the law. The legislature appropriated $800,000 to do that. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. We'll have to get with Commissioner Ward.
Yeah.
But if he needs more, I'm for giving him more. I'm for the electronic monitoring.
Mm-hmm. And so that's the whole point, right? And I was talking with Cam Ward yesterday, actually, and he made the point that when they are monitored for a certain period after they're released from prison, then they are less likely to recommit a crime and get sent back to prison. And he had some data to back that up. But again, it's been out there in the news so much, and people getting pretty worked up over it. Do you think that the headlines and the coverage and maybe the perception by many has been overblown on this issue?
I do, because remember this: the individuals that we are releasing anywhere from 3 months to 12 months prior to the time that they end their sentence, within that 3 to 12 month period of time, they are going to end their sentence. They're going to EOS their sentence. In fact, we've had people who we have released and monitored and taken the monitor off of them because they have ended their sentence, in that monitoring period of time. Mm-hmm. So yes, I think, I think there's some hype to it. Maybe there were some problems, I think, some issues with notification.
Sure, yeah, victim notification.
And that is unfortunate, but it does not in any way change the fact that they were going to be released within that short period of time, and that monitoring them prior to them being released is a safe and sensible, reasonable approach to take.
Mm-hmm. Well, switching gears real quick while we have you, you are the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. It's a very, very busy committee, probably one of the busiest, if not the busiest, in the House. Can you explain for viewers what that role is like, what your committee handles, the wide variety of things, and how y'all go about that process?
Sure. The Judiciary Committee traditionally will have about 100 bills assigned to us during the session. We take them up on a weekly basis. Every Wednesday afternoon, we have a Judiciary Committee meeting. We will take up, I try to hold it to about 10 bills. Sometimes it goes up to 15, but 10 to 15 bills in every week that we will take up and discuss. We will vet, we will amend. We will either give them a favorable report, which means they move on to the Rules Committee and then hopefully to the floor of the House, or we will give that an unfavorable report. If it's an unfavorable report, at that point, that bill is dead. It does not go further.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a busy session.
It is going to be a busy session.
So, and brand new term, so a lot of bills probably coming out that we didn't anticipate. But thank you for your time, and I look forward to having you back.
I do too. Thank
Chairman
you a lot.
Jim Hill,
Appreciate you coming. Thanks
right.
for letting me come.
We'll be right back.
You can watch past episodes of Capitol Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the Online Video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capitol Journal and link to past episodes on Capitol Journal's Facebook page.
Joining me next is State Representative Pebblin Warren from Tuskegee. Ms. Warren, thanks for coming on Capitol Journal.
Why, thank you so much for the invite. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, pleasure's all mine. I wanted to have you on because you had a big night the other night when I didn't know what was going to happen. Maybe you did. Governor Ivey, in her State of the State speech, gave a shout out to your bill.
Yes.
This bill you've had for several years now, requiring that students complete kindergarten. I know that's more nuanced than that, but so that's a pretty big deal for the governor to shout out.
It was a great deal. You know, the way I see it, once you have a mission and you know that mission has to be completed, you just don't give up. You just stay persistent. You know, I've been trying to count how many years I've been doing this bill. It's either 5 or 6. Yeah. I said, Lord, has it been that long? But I am just so glad. You know, I was told that the State Board of Education had some discussion on kindergarten, the need for students attending. And when I heard that, I said, okay, let me just take it to the governor's office because she serves as the chair of that board. And when I carried it to them and I gave, you know, them what I've been trying to achieve all these years, and when you look at our results, our tests are just not showing anything better. As a matter of fact, in some cases, they're getting worse. So I've always said that, you know, you got to build a firm foundation if you want to be successful. And the way it's now structured in the state, that student won't receive any attention until they get to the 3rd grade. And once they fail the assessment in the 3rd grade, they're now saying that that student has to repeat the 3rd grade. Why wait until a student gets to the 3rd grade? Let's build them up with the foundation. All of our students can't go to pre-K, but we should make it kindergarten accessible to every 5-year-old child in the state of Alabama that wants to go. And I think that this is going to be our time to do that now and give those kids the preparation, because, you know, as I tell people, I worked in higher ed for 40 years and I became a granny. And once I became a granny, that put me into nursery school, daycare, kindergarten settings, and I started seeing some things that I felt were troubling. And one of them was when I saw this young girl who was getting ready to go to 1st grade. Her name had 3 letters in it, and 2 of the 3 letters were A's, and she couldn't read and couldn't recognize an A. And her mother was as honest as she could be. Because my grandson was reading, and she said, he's in the wrong line. She said, this is the 1st grade. This is where they learn to read. My daughter says, no, he's been to pre-K, he's been to kindergarten, he's been reading for 3 years now. And to see that, I said, we cannot subject this child, because I learned later on they did tease her in class because she couldn't recognize an A. Everybody else could recognize A's. So it's unfair to that student to put them in a situation like that. It's unfair to the advanced students that they got to slow their pace down to try bring that other student along, and it's also unfair to the teacher.
So walk me through exactly what your bill does as written.
What my bill does, it requires that before a student can enter a kindergarten class, enter first grade, they have to show the kindergarten proficiencies. And for those who have not been in a kindergarten class, the state board will come up with an assessment. And they will do the assessment. If the student passes that assessment, go on to the first grade. If that student does not pass that assessment, that student is going to have to complete the curriculum for kindergarten.
Okay, so it's not necessarily mandatory kindergarten, because there is a way to not attend kindergarten, pass the proficiency test. But for all intents and purposes, it is.
It is. You know, and I was just elated to hear the governor say mandatory. You know, as a politician, we learned early what words we can't say around here, and mandatory was one of them. That when I started the bill, you can't mandate, mandate.
That's a great point, and I'm glad you bring it up, because coming from, look, this legislature is majority Republican, supermajority Republican. And traditionally that has meant less government, less constraints, less mandatory kind of things. So yeah, words like that can scare traditional conservatives. And are you concerned about that? Have you heard from any colleagues that say, hey, look, I'm all for kindergarten, I just don't want the government to force it?
Not this go round. I haven't had a chance to talk with the new members because I try to, before I bring a bill, I try to go to everybody in that chamber and let them know what I'm trying to accomplish and to get their support. I have not had a chance to go to the new members yet, but I will be doing it within the next couple of days, hitting the 30-something new members we have, to introduce them to them. And when I introduce the bill, I'll make sure they understand this is nothing new. This is something that this House has passed every time I've had it on the floor, but it was killed in the Senate at the last minute.
So, yeah, as you said, passed out of the House before. What are the prospects upstairs? I guess you got work to do upstairs.
Well, in talking with the governor's office, what we said was a bill of this nature is not a partisan bill. This is not a Republican. It's not a Democrat. It's a children's bill to help them and get their foundation. So we agreed that we're going to make this a bipartisan bill. I'm going to carry the bill in the House, and right now Senator Chastain is going to carry it in the Senate.
Okay. Well, that's probably a good recipe for success.
Yeah.
While I've got you, I want to switch gears, because you have this other bill dealing with schools, but this is school safety and getting schools to coordinate on safety plans that they hope they'll never need, but as we've seen, could need. Walk me through what this bill does.
Well, the schools are required to have rescue plans in place, which that says the school. But what we saw that happened in Uvalde was just total unorganization. Nobody knew what they were supposed to do. What this bill does is it mandates that the school system and the local law enforcement officers get together and make the plan together, be inclusive of law enforcement as well as the schools operation. So if anything happens, is nobody calling trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go, what do I do here, what do I do there. Everybody will know what the plan is. There will be a set plan that's developed by law enforcement and the school system.
And what's been your feedback from colleagues or Aaliyah and some of these agencies about that?
I have not heard from them. I said I was going to give them a call, give the Sheriff's Association a call, Aaliyah a call, and see where they are on it. I don't see them having problems with it, because it really helps everybody.
Right. Nobody wants to be in that situation.
Right.
That, like you said, the Uvalde, where, goodness, it seems like if they had
30 minutes,
coordinated, then the loss of life wouldn't have been so severe.
Yeah.
Certainly seems like that.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure, we've been blessed in Alabama not to have had a school invasion, but who knows? We just don't know what's around the corner, and I just want to make sure that if it happens in Alabama, we're ready. The students are ready, the faculty is ready, and law enforcement is ready.
Well, we will be watching both of these bills as the session moves forward. Representative Pebblin Warren from Tuskegee, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be right back.
Former basketball player and Hall of Famer Charles Barkley is one of Alabama's most recognizable sports stars. Nicknamed the Round Mound of Rebound and Sir Charles, the Leeds native had a remarkable basketball career with the Auburn University Tigers before embarking on a career in the NBA. Barkley also played for the U.S. Olympic basketball team in the 1992 and 1996 Summer Games. Since his retirement in 2000, Barkley has carved out a niche as a basketball analyst, author, and commentator on political and social issues. Since 2001, Auburn University, the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Phoenix Suns have retired Barkley's number 34 jersey. In 2006, Barkley was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts.
That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow night with more coverage of the Alabama legislature at 10:30 p.m. right here on Alabama Public Television. For our Capitol Journal team, I'm Todd Stacy. We'll see you next time.